What's up, Snatchers? I'm Quackers Co., and this is the Fish Fry for December 18th, being held at Marooner's Bay. Our cookware for this rotation is the Splash-O-Matic, the Splatoon Wiper, the Splattershot Pro, and the Splat Charger. This is the last of the really good compositions for these 4 stages that we have, and the range on it should work pretty well for Marooner's Bay. And it seems Marooner's Bay supports a different playing style than any of the other maps. You need to focus supremely on luring targets closer to the basket. You either need to chill at the bow of the ship or right there in the middle, letting everything get closer and getting it as close to the basket before you start splatting it. Of course, we do need to take out those priority targets at the shoreline, so whenever you push towards them, take them out and then get yourself back to the basket as quick as possible. And with a charger in this composition, keep that thing close to the basket, that way those salmonids will line up, making it easier to splat more targets with each shot. And use those jump shots with the Splatoon Wiper, both for getting a little extra height on your attacks, and keeping yourself from going sailing off the boat. There's not that many walls here at Marooner's Bay, so make sure you get them painted as quick as possible, that way you can get focused on luring and taking out targets, especially on both sides of the boat. Once you're down there for an amount of time, everything will start moving through that center corridor right towards you. But you are able to lure scrappers and steelheads onto those elevators, just to make it a little bit easier for collecting some of those eggs. When we're on a high tide at Marooner's Bay, it'll make it easier for the Splat Charger to use its piercing damage, but it's easy to find ourselves being overran here at Marooner's Bay. So try to take out everything before it gets to the basket. Try to keep that area clear, that way we have a little bit more space to move around once stuff gets too close. And we'll need to push past it in order to get to some of these flyfish and stingers, so try not to get too much tunnel vision on collecting eggs. Let the Snatchers grab them and bring them closer, that way you don't have to spend too much time overextending. Take out those priority targets and get yourself back to the basket. A low tide at Marooner's Bay is just a little bit tight, but our turf is pretty wide, so make sure you paint as much as you can, because it's going to be helpful to utilize it. And also that ring sandbar is really good for riding the inside of the ring, that way you can approach a flyfish without having to worry about getting bumped into the water. And the fish stick placement here at Marooner's Bay is really detrimental to our mobility, so make sure you take them out. The Splatoon Wiper and the Splattershot Pro are fantastic weapons for taking them out from the ground level. On a Cohawk charge, the Splattershot Pro has some pretty bad ink efficiency, so it might be better to put the Pro and the Splat Charger in the turrets, that way the Wiper and the Splash can run those eggs. During a Glowflies occurrence at Marooner's Bay, we have that really awesome spot. If we stand at the beginning of the right side Great Bridge and focus all of our damage, it should work out pretty well. Just remember that whoever is targeted needs to be in front of everybody else. If you're standing in front of that person that's being targeted, those chum will go right across you and splat you very fast. On a Griller's occurrence, that platform just ahead of that right there in the middle works pretty well. You just gotta make sure that you lure the grillers in the right way, that way they expose their tail to everybody to make it really easy to splat them and clear the wave. On a Mothership wave, we've got some pretty good damage to take out those Chinooks on the way down, and that Splash-O-Matic can do a pretty good job on getting around and doing a little bit of cooler and lesser control. If you can get the Splat Charger to the aft end of the ship, you can cause a lot of damage to that Mothership while it's on approach. On a Mudmouth wave, we need to be really careful about standing on the gusher placements, because if the Mudmouth spawns right where you're standing, it'll probably splat you. So try to keep yourself focused on where you're at and keep in control on those lessers. If a Golden Mudmouth is out there for a while, remember to use that Splat Charger's piercing damage to clear up that horde in just a couple charge shots. And the same can be said for a Golden Tornado. Line up those salmonids and get that Splat Charger in the right spot, that way you can clear up a lot of enemies for your whole team. On a Goalie Seek at Marooner's Bay, we need to activate the gushers on the left and right side shorelines closest to the basket. They seem really close, but the salmonids would have the furthest way to go, and it gives you a very good clue on whether or not that Goldie is there closer to the basket. And remember to keep pace with that Splatoon Wiper to use that charge slash. You can knock out an egg with every single hit. So let's clean up this boat and cruise. Okay, let's get into the cookware. Our first cooking utensil is the Splash-O-Matic. The Splash-O-Matic has some insane coverage, but its range and DPS is just a little bit low. Keep just a little bit of distance between you and your targets, and this weapon can do a pretty good job at taking out lessers and taking out bosses. It's got a little bit of issue taking out fish sticks from the ground level, so it'll be easier just to climb them and provide some support from above that fish stick. Since it's the best painting utensil in the kit, make sure you do your job to keep that basket area covered and as much of that boat covered as possible all throughout the match. Our second cooking utensil is the Splatoon Wiper. That shoreline at Marooner's Bay is so dangerous sometimes. Make sure you keep yourself from sailing off there into the distance by jump shotting whenever you have a charged attack. That charge attack is also really good for taking out multiple pots of a stinger. You can also take out a steelhead on one cycle. Just make sure your shots are on point and get close up whenever you want to cause that maximum damage. If you ever do that charge shot whenever you're dealing with lessers, make sure you swim your way back, that way you're not getting bumped around too much and getting too much damage. Our third cooking utensil is the Splattershot Pro. The Splattershot Pro is an ink-hungry beast, but the thing just chews right through all the salmonids. If you keep yourself filled up with ink, this utensil can do a great job at dealing damage all throughout this map, so try to never play the Splattershot Pro too aggressive. Sure, it has that damage output, but you'll find yourself with low ink and way deep in trouble. Our last cooking utensil is the Splat Charger. The Splat Charger has some pretty good range for reaching just about anything that spawns on the shoreline, but you have to be really careful about stunning anything that needs to be lured to the basket. Keep yourself aware of where the big shots are spawning from. All the other weapons in the kit will probably try to push towards them. You can be the support in order to keep them from getting splat or bumped into the water. But as I said before, you want to keep the Splat Charger closer to the basket. You want to make sure that those salmonids are lining up, that way you can cause some massive damage with this weapon. It does have the biggest problem on dealing with stingers and fish sticks, but you can do a great job for your teammates on painting the sides of those fish sticks and pinging this way. That way they can push towards that fish stick and you can provide that support fire. The Splat Charger may have a problem with taking out the fish stick, but it does a great job at being on top of that fish stick and providing some more support fire and coverage all around the basket. One smart move that might be helpful is keeping an eye out for steel eels that are spawning. They're one of the worst lures that you can have on Marooner's Bay, and it would probably be helpful just to splat them before you even have to worry about them. On an extra wave, if you're daring enough, get that Splatoon Wiper right up close to that Kohazuna and start causing some charge slash damage. It might be better to take that damage output and put it onto lessers and bosses. The Splattershot Pro and the Splash-O-Matic can do a great job at causing constant DPS damage, while the Splat Charger and the Wiper focus on bosses and causing extra damage to the Kohazuna. If you get that close to the Kohazuna with the Wiper, go ahead and try to aggro him and keep him there in the middle of the map. And always look for that moment towards the beginning half of the extra wave, where you can use your special to not just cause some damage to that Kohazuna, but to also take out some bosses, spawning some golden eggs early on in the wave. And the fish fry usually comes up before the stage rotation, so if you want to catch these updates when they're hot and fresh, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. And if you want other fellow Grisco employees to receive these tips, make sure you like and share the video. Bye-bye. To give the fish fry an algorithm boost, just comment what your favorite or least favorite weapon is of this composition. I think I'm going to have to give my choice to the Wiper as my favorite. The utensil has a lot of technique to it, but when you get it moving, it can cause some real good damage, and it feels really cool using it too. Alright, bye-bye.